So let's dive in and talk about the basic shapes inside Illustrator. When I go to my shape tools here, you can see I have a rectangle tool, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, and star, as well as a tool that shall not be named. This tool is essentially useless, so just call it the don't ever use this tool, okay? But if I take something else, like let's say I take an ellipse and I click and drag, you see I can draw, very quickly as many shapes as I want. Now, when I draw them, you might want to use a modifier key. And let me just tell you very quickly about modifier keys. Modifier keys are different than hotkeys or shortcut keys because you apply them while you're doing the action. So I, will hold down, in this case, Shift, and then when I click and drag, it's going to make a perfect circle, or if I was using my rectangle tool, it would be a perfect square. And essentially, it's going to make my X and Y the same, which is called constraining your aspect ratio. So if I go grab the rectangle tool, you can see if I hold down Shift, it's going to constrain my aspect ratio to make a perfect square. Now also notice it's always drawing from the upper left-hand side. If I hold down Option, it's going to even change my icon to let me know that. And I Option drag, and you can see it's going to drag from the center. And in fact, I can hold down Option and Shift, and it's going to do both, okay? So those modifier keys, they're not just, something to speed up like a hotkey. They are essential for the use of the tool, okay? Now, while I'm talking about these shapes, let's go over the anchor points and paths. And when I'm creating these shapes here, you might notice that my anchor points are a little bit different than yours. They're a little bit big because I've changed my UI preferences. If I go up to Illustrator, Preferences, and go to Selection and Anchor Display, you can see I actually have a slider here for the size of the anchor points. Yours is going to be much smaller by default, but I've cranked it up just for the purposes of this screen capture. But in case if you have a little bit of a eyesight issue, you can increase those anchor points as well. Okay. Now, every object in Illustrator has an anchor point and a path. So if I click on my object, you can see I have anchor points here, 1, 2, 3, and Illustrator will then draw the paths in between. If I move the anchor points, the paths update. Also notice that if the anchor points are filled in, that means it's selected. And if the anchor point is hollow, it means it is not selected. So in this case, you can see I'm moving just that top point. Or if I have the entire object selected, you can see all the anchor points are selected.